Of them, but we have to start our fantasy focus with the biggest move of the offseason. Tom Brady is now a Buccaneer.
Yeah, and there's a lot of narrative out there. Hey, Tom Brady's arm is shot. Well, how do we know? How do we know? What did he do in New England to tell us that his arm was shot? He didn't have anybody to target downfield. Now he does. Mike Evans banged up. It looks like he's going to play. Obviously, Chris Godwin. This is a great group of skill position players. It rivals the Welker, Randy Moss, except he didn't have Gronk then. Now he has Gronk, O.J. Howard. This is a great group for Brady. I love him this year.
The playoffs, they begin in most of your leagues this week, so we always love to give you advice. I simply say don't overthink it. Jeff, what do you say?
It's the same thing, and really when it comes down to it, the age-old advice was start your studs. Well, there aren't a lot of studs, so obviously you're starting Devontae Adams, you're starting Patrick Mahomes. Start your best players. You can get into it and really get into the weeds with your fantasy football lineups where you think you can outthink fantasy football. You're never going to win there. You're never going to see through the matrix. What you got to do is start the best players on your roster, the players who are most likely to score the most points. Don't try and squeeze every last bit of juice out of that orange there. Start your best players.
Yeah, Coach Keelan Cole and Aaron Rodgers all turned out to be smart plays a week ago. It is time for us to take a spin on our fantasy Wheel of Wisdom. Whoever the wheel lands on, Jeff will tell us how he rates that as a fantasy play. So let's go. Let's spin the wheel, and let's see who is first on the docket for Jeff.
Who is it going to be? Oh, Darrell Henderson. All right, this one's a little risky. I'm actually going to sit Darrell Henderson. I'll tell you why. Last week, Cam Akers led the backfield in carries. We're seeing Malcolm Brown involved. It is a three-headed monster. And I don't like the matchup either against that Tampa Bay run defense, so he's got to ride the pine for me this week. For fantasy purposes, we know what we pay attention to. Yards, touchdowns, but they're very volatile stats. What we can predict a lot better is volume, right? And so when we're talking about air yards are simply the amount of distance a target travels. So if you can predict a target or target volume, then you can also predict the target distance. Players tend to be targeted at a similar area downfield. We call that average depth of target. So it's a really useful stat to see who's overperforming, to see who's underperforming based on air yards.
Yeah. But you want to get an edge. You want to have maybe a little contrarian views here. Sometimes you need to pivot, have a little bit of a less popular pick. So let's get into our fantasy photo bomb. I love this. Zeke, great choice, but what if you want to move a different way?
Well, yeah, everybody's on the Cowboys this week. So if you're going after the Cowboys, they're chalk. I think Saquon is a very interesting photo bomb pivot play here. Hey, he's going to be a little bit lower owned because of last week, but, you know, I look at my projections. I have him projected at 20.2 DraftKings points. I'm going to pay up the extra for him instead of Zeke this week. I like that play.
Over 100 catches. All right, let's talk about these rookies, and they are awesome. New season means a crop of talent. We saw Clyde Edwards-Helaire do his thing, stellar debut on Thursday. Let's go through the other rookie running backs. Jonathan Taylor first.
Okay, prolific, right? 2 2,000-yard seasons, almost 3 2,000-yard seasons at the college level, but a throwback running back, not going to do a lot in the passing game. He did have 26 catches last year, so I'm not saying he can't, but Nyheim Hines there is that passing down back. The big question, is he ahead of Marlon Mack? I think today he asserts himself, and the answer is yes.
Ooh, we'll see if he can outtake Marlon Mack. Cam Akers is a guy that I'm so intrigued by. He appears to be the heir apparent to Todd Gurley.
So good at Florida State, even though the offensive line was so bad for him. Yes, he does appear to be that way, but the three-back committee to start the season out, I think this is another one, though, where this may be a little bit of smoke and mirrors, and ultimately he's the better player between him and Malcolm Brown, and then also throwing Darrell Henderson in there. So Akers is going to emerge, but another one we might need to be patient with.
Patience. All right, Washington made the surprising move to release Adrian Peterson. It means more touches for Gibson, who can be moved around a lot for Antonio.
Absolutely, and you can't teach the size and speed. 4.4 speed, 6'2", 220, but didn't even touch the ball 80 times at Memphis last year. He is a chess piece, but he is not a true pure running back. Reminds me of a little David Johnson actually coming into the league. So watch him in the passing game today, but don't expect a ton in the run game.
Technically, J.D. McKissick is the starter there for now. Adrian Peterson's new team, it's Detroit. He's going to share the backfield with DeAndre Swift, Kerryon Johnson as well, but let's talk Swift.
I mean, he stood out at Georgia, so that's saying something right there. This is a kid who some draftniks said was the best running back in this year's class. Again, you don't love Kerryon Johnson if you bring in a veteran in Adrian Peterson, you draft a running back in Swift. Swift is a guy who I think could be this year's Miles Sanders. Not a big factor in September and October, but November and December, he's going to assert himself.